Shanti, shanti. Keeping this inward feeling, let's listen to these words on forgiveness this morning. Forgiveness is the sword of victory. When we forgive those who seek to hurt us, we rob them of their very power to do us harm. Better still, if they respond with love, they will unite their strength to ours, and so our strength becomes doubled. But forgiveness should not be given primarily for its effect on others, but rather for the freedom it affirms in our own hearts. Let no outward circumstance condition your inner happiness. Be not pleased merely when man is pleased. Be pleased, rather, when you feel God's pleasure in your heart. And let's affirm together, all that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. All that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. No more quietly. All that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. And now in a whisper, all that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. And now quietly, inwardly and silently, all that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. All that befalls me is for my good. I welcome any hurts that I receive as opportunities to grow in understanding. And now pray silently with me. Lord, how often the hurts that I've sustained in life have grieved me. Strengthen my power of love, that I surrender all things to Thee, my eternal friend. Om. Amen. And this morning we're going to listen and watch a short video of Swamiji. So you might want to close that door and come closer so that you can hear. There's seats up here. You can sit on the floor.
I bow to the Lord Vasudeva. The Lord is in all beings, in all masters, and also in you. And the only difference between you and me on the one hand and the great masters on the other is that we're still asleep in delusion. We have to wake up. It's only that. You don't have to attain anything. There's a very nice passage in the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, in which a disciple is asking the Guru for minute instructions on the spiritual path, and the Guru says, it makes me laugh to see how fish in water athirst. We have that consciousness. We don't need so much these minute instructions. People seem to think that just if you turn one hand the wrong way, something will not happen and God will curse you. You are in Him already. What you need to do is think about Him. And the techniques of yoga are useful because they help you to think about Him. They're not rituals. They have a directional purpose. They help to calm the mind, direct the prana, the energy upward, to focus it these are what are needed. These plus absolute desire for that, so that all the energy goes up. And it isn't, as in everybody's case who is still in delusion, sort of a tug of war between Maya and spiritual aspiration. And the reason the path takes a long time is because of that tug of war. You say, yes, I want God, but it would be so nice if I had that new house. That kind of thinking keeps us going for many incarnations. There's a beautiful but very short saying that I want to read from Conversations with Yogananda. During the last months of the Master's life, someone gave him an expensive Cadillac car. He referred to it several times as his hangman's dinner. You know, he explained, when someone is about to be executed by hanging, it is traditional to give him the best dinner possible. Divine Mother wanted as a send-off to give me something special, because my work in this lifetime is finished. Well, he had a charming sense of humor, and he could joke about that. But indeed, he was very simple. He didn't like to have anything, and whatever he had, he wanted to give away. One time, there was a sweet little story. Somebody had given him some money, and he wanted to give it to us so we could go off and buy ice cream. So he said, it's kind of hot today, isn't it? And we answered, well, it's not all that hot, so we knew what he wanted to offer, and we felt embarrassed. He said, are you sure it isn't hot? So we answered, well, it is if you say so, sir. And he said, I'm so charming. He said, I can't keep money and I won't. And so he gave us $5 to go out and buy some ice cream. Well, he didn't want to have such a beautiful thing, but he accepted it in a jocular spirit as Divine Mother's hangman's dinner. You know, living with him as I did for 3.5 years and having so many wonderful memories. It's sort of, when you think of the gopis reflecting on the days of Krishna in Gokula, and after Krishna left there and had to begin his life mission, there was still that nostalgia. And so sometimes when I read these conversations, they come very alive to me. It was, you go along like this, and then suddenly you climb a high mountain and you go on like this. But there's such golden memories. You can't imagine what it was like to live with a great man of God. So many people in India they either haven't read his autobiography of a yogi, after all his mission was in the West, or they've read it and they think, what a sweet, charming, beautiful young man, how lucky he was to meet all those great saints. They don't realize what a great master he was. Listen, for an Indian teacher to go to America and keep intact his own principles, his own high culture, and yet adapt it to the country in the right way. I have seen a lot of teachers come from India, and I've never seen one handle it as well as he did. He was always just, to live with him was an experience it was totally different from anything we ever saw in our culture. And of course, the mistake that Americans can make is seeing somebody like that. They come to India and they sort of expect that every Indian will be a guru, and it's not quite as ridiculous, but expect somebody anywhere they go, slap them on the chest and they'll go into samadhi. Well, as you know, as I know, India isn't like that. You sometimes meet some great ones, and you meet a lot of other people, and I don't have to describe them because they're like everybody in the world. People, the big problem with human beings is ego. But when you meet somebody who doesn't have an ego, at first it's a bit of a shock. You don't know how to handle somebody that great. There's a saying, No man is great in the eyes of his own valet. And this is probably true in the world, but those who were the closest to my guru were the ones who held him in the greatest respect and reverence. It wasn't a phony thing. It wasn't something you put on because, oh, here's the guru, I'm supposed to. You couldn't help feeling like that. And yet, at the same time, he could be so, he wasn't like a Himalayan yogi, sort of always talking as if from a mountain top like this. I had a wonderful sense of humor. And could be so sweet and so charming. And yet still, you felt behind that, there was this great, vast consciousness that it wasn't even a condescension, because there was no sense of I'm here and you are there. There was no sense of I at all. And so his life, which toward the end of it we began to feel a nostalgia, because we knew that he wasn't going to be much longer. I know that I thought he would come back to India. He planned to come back here 3 years in a row. Each year he was going to bring me and a few others with him. And so I did think he would come back here and leave his body in India, but it was his great mission to go to the West, so it was right that he made his body also in the West. I know that only one person said that he had said to her, it's only a matter of hours. But the last day was, you know that Ambassador Shen, Abhinay Shen from India, had come to Los Angeles and he came up to Mount Washington. I remember serving them shondesh. There's a picture of me doing that. And the last few days were taken up with sort of bringing India and America together in that way. But the last night, somebody had sent him some green coconuts, and he remembered the green coconuts in Calcutta. And he was joyfully eating these coconuts, and I just couldn't help feeling there was a sort of an aura of unreality around it. And he looked at me and went on joking, but it didn't seem quite, it seems as if he was putting on an act, because he knew that this was the last time he would be with us, except for just going out to the big banquet at the Biltmore Hotel the next day, and I was there too, when he left his body. And as he was getting into the elevator, he said, I have a big day tomorrow, wish me luck. We didn't understand what he meant. He meant a big day, the end of days for that life. And so when he went to the Biltmore Hotel, I was sitting with Dick Haymes, who was a famous singer and also an actor in Hollywood. And I was sort of partly talking with him, partly listening to Master, and I was writing down Master's words. And all of a sudden, because I wasn't looking, I was busy writing, just suddenly there was this shout or scream, and I looked up and he said, what happened? And Dick Haymes said, he's fainted. He doesn't faint. I knew there was something much more than that. And I had always wanted to be a playwright as a young man. And it just suited my sense of drama. What more dramatic way to leave his body? Years earlier, he had said, I know when I die in joy I will sigh for India. And in another one he said that I want to die with my boots on. And in another time he said, I will die speaking of my India and my America. And his final talk was on that subject. He was saying that between these two cultures, America and India, there is something that they have in common which they need to bring into unity. When I see people in India all trying to become Americanized, they always get the cap on the wrong end. You can't feed the tail, you gotta feed the mouth. They always forget that the culture is not just the glitz. The real America is something much deeper. There is something wonderful in America. It's first of all, there is a spiritual hunger there. People want to know God. They believe in freedom to worship as one chooses. They believe in fairness. But I think the most apposite thing, the most important thing, as regards its relationship with India, is this: that many years ago, in 1959, I think it was, there was a young man who was in business, and I suggested to him something he might do that would improve his business. Well, I may have been right, I may have been wrong. The interesting thing in this story isn't whether I was right or wrong. It's that he answered me, well, but you see, sir, this is what my father did. As if that settled it. India is so steeped in tradition that it's hard to break that. Now that Indians are becoming so expert at computers, nobody can say, well, my father did computers this way. That forces them to break tradition. Now, in America, it's of all countries, the most likely, the most inclined to think, how can we improve on things? There's a funny story about a group of people from different countries who are asked to write an essay on the elephant. And the English student wrote about the aristocratic character of the elephant, and the German wrote about how to use the elephant in time of war, and the Frenchman wrote about lovemaking among the elephants, and the Italian wrote about the musical trumpet of the elephant. The American wrote about how to make bigger and better elephants. And this sort of is the American way. Too often they think they equate bigger with better. But still, how many great inventions have come from America? They're coming from other countries too. But I'm just saying this is the particular genius of America. You always think, how can I do it better? Well, that's something that people need in India too. Because the traditions are from an old time when people had to be given forms because they couldn't understand the inwardness. Now we're living in an age of energy. My Param Guru said it is Dwapara Yuga. I know that Indians generally think of it as Kali. Well, okay, call it what you like, but it is an age of energy. People think more in terms of energy. And all those old ways of worship, for instance, why do you do Arati? Ultimately, it's an outward symbol of offering yourself to God. The light that is in you being offered up into the infinite light. Why do you do puja? It's not a thing in itself, it's a symbol of offering all your senses up to the infinite. Why do you do yajna? To burn up your past karmas in the fire, in the Havan Kund. But all of these outward symbols, they're beautiful and fine, mustn't be overlooked in the sense that they are the reality, because the real puja, the real yajna, the real arati is a matter of inwardly offering your pran up to God. Now, in an age when people didn't know energy, when people couldn't understand that matter itself is really only a vibration of energy, when to them matter was real, it was much more difficult to think in terms of yoga. Yoga in those days, and even today, is hatha yoga, physical positions, things you can see and touch and feel. But the truth is that real yoga and real pranayama, prana means not just breath, it means energy. Breath control helps to control the energy, but the real meaning of pranayama means to be able to bring your energy under control and withdraw it from the senses. As my guru used to say, I practiced as a boy, shutting off the senses one by one. And with this practice, you can, in deep meditation, raise your energy. When you feel devotion in the heart, don't offer it outward to Krishna or Kali or anything. Yes, do that too, that's fine. Realize the real devotion is inside. You really, when you feel love bursting your heart with devotion, don't spill it in outward emotion. You won't get anywhere that way. It'll feel good for a while, and then where will you be? Take that feeling and direct it up the spine to this. That is where yoga comes in very handy. In fact, you need it. because it teaches you how the life force flows in the spine. This is the canal through which all your energy flows. This is why Swamis often carry a danda. The danda is to remind them to be straight in their spine so the energy can flow freely in its spine. When I think of my guru, I remember how firmly he always brought us back to that truth. He never wavered from it. That is what I'm trying my best to convey to you. In my coming to India, I have nothing to give you but him. And what he had to give was something new for the world. And the combination of his devotion with aspiration, with activity outwardly, all done with God consciousness. These are golden memories, and therefore I wanted to sing to you, and I won't be doing it myself, but friends of mine will sing to you a song that I wrote called Memories. Show to you.
You can get comfortable again. So again, welcome to our Sunday Satsang, and that's, those of you who are new, that's Swami Ananda, the founder of Ananda, and our direct disciple, Paramahansa Yogananda, a great soul. And this is a poem and a prayer from Whispers from Eternity, written by Yogananda. And it's, I vow never again to turn my gaze from thee. I take this sacred vow. Never will I lower my love's gaze below the eyebrow horizon of my constant thoughts of thee. Never will I turn my uplifted inner sight away from thee. Never will I let my mind dwell on anything that reminds me not of thee. I will disdain the nightmare of ignorant behavior. I will court all dreams of noble achievement, those of love, kindness, and understanding, for they are thy dreams. Though I dream many dreams, wakefully I will ever think of thee. In the sacred fire of constant remembrance, kept ever alight by my soul's altar, I will ever behold thy presence with the watchful eyes of devotional love. Thy grace has shown me that the dualities of health and sickness, life and death, joy and sorrow are but passing fantasies. I am finished with those eternally self-canceling delusions. I am persuaded at last that there is but one abiding reality, thy eternal, ever conscious, ever new, ever thrilling infinite bliss. And this is a reading from The New Path, The Life with Swami wrote this book. It's called The Life with Paramahansa Yogananda. During the last 2 years of his life, Master also spent many hours with the monks, teaching, encouraging, and inspiring them. Each of you must individually make love to God, he told us one evening. Keep your mind at the Christ center, and when you work, all the time think you are working for God and Guru. Always God and Guru, God, Christ, and Guru. Many come here, then talk and joke all the time, or play the organ. Master glanced menacingly at one of the monks. They won't get God that way. There are many mice living in the canyon on this property, but they are not developing spiritually. They haven't God. Don't think you can make spiritual progress by merely living here. You yourself must make the effort. Each of you stands alone before God. And it's such a privilege to even be thinking about being on the spiritual path in this lifetime. Who would have thought? All of us come to that point in our life where we know that the way we've been doing it has left us a little bit empty, that what we've been going after has dissolved with not the joy and the happiness and the longevity that we thought these things would bring. And so we get a little disillusioned with life. And so we come to this point in our spiritual life where we yearn for God, that we can't even think of how to do it anymore without God. And what is God? God is forgiveness, God is compassion, God is unconditional love, energy, courage, all of the qualities that it takes to be an instrument for God in this world. He is everything. He is all of us. And so we come to that point in our lives and we think, what can I do? This is not fun anymore. And then when the disciples say the Guru arrives, the Guru comes, when you're open, when you're ready to receive his guidance, when you know that you want that support, when you want God, when you want more love, and you want to live your life in a different way. And so the Guru comes, and he's been waiting incarnations and eons for you to open up to that point where you can receive him. And what he asks us to do is only for our own good. It's only for our freedom, because his job is to free us. And he tells us that very often in all of his writings, in all of his talks, in all of his prayers, and all of his meditations. It's to free us from that which is holding us back from being just like him. And we are all children of the same Father. We must remember that we are all children of the same Father and the same God. There's nothing different between any of us. The only thing that's different is our awareness of that feeling, that fact. That's the only difference. Some people are steeped in delusion, and it might take them a little longer. That doesn't demand disrespect and condemnation from us. That doesn't demand us to criticize and judge them, because we've been there. We have been in the situations in our own lives, in our own incarnations, where we're confused. We say things we don't want to say. We feel lonely. We're in darkness. Our lives aren't turning out. We've been there. And so somehow, some way, we've gotten to the point where we're a little bit more awake. And so we can recognize in ourselves that, yes, I have my faults. I've been negative, I've been critical, I've been all of these things, whatever it is, materialistic, delusional. Yes, I've been that way, but I know there's a way out. And so you begin to accept yourself. That's the first step. You need to accept yourself for all of your faults, the millions of faults that you can come up with. We all have them. But look inside, do some introspection, and just glance at those faults and say, yeah, I've got that. I did that. I said that. I wish I hadn't. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I'd done that. If only that hadn't happened. If only I could have that. You look at yourself and you see all of these thoughts that are flowing in your mind. They're not you. Yes, maybe we have done those things. But if you have the courage to say, yes, I have done those things. Look at me. I'm not perfect. And you look at yourself in the moment and you begin from that point on to allow divine light to come in and forgive yourself. And to say, that was then, this is now. Because our future is created in this moment. All of those thoughts that we had are gone forever. The only thing that keeps them in our life is that tape. We allow them back in. Oh, I did that. Oh, that person is horrible. Oh, if only I. Oh, what if? Oh, I'm so worried. We let the thoughts back in and they go around and around and around, and we don't put a stop to them, but we can. But we can, just like Swamiji was saying, this is the age of energy. Use that energy. Use deep meditation. Use these spiritual tools. Use your awareness of the energy in your own spine to draw that energy up here to the point between the eyebrows and let go. Give it to God. When those thoughts come into your mind of condemnation of yourself and others, give it to God. Give it to God. Give it to God. There it is again. And replace it. Replace that thought. In this moment, a powerful thought of light, a powerful thought, a powerful affirmation. I and my Father are one. Thou and I are one. I am thy child. Receive me. Anything you can come up with that resonates in your own heart. It has to resonate. I can't tell you the right affirmation. There's thousands of them. But you have that secret power in your own heart to come up with that thought and make it real in your life. And from that point on, your life will start changing. It might take a while, but it will start changing. Why? Because you're allowing the light to come in and the darkness disappears. It can't stay. The darkness goes away when the light comes in. And so then with that one thought, that one affirmation of positiveness and loving yourself and loving God and loving others and forgiving yourself and forgiving others and just thinking that I am your child. I will not live without you one more moment. Guide my thoughts, guide my actions, guide my reactions, guide my life. The Guru comes then because you're open, your heart opens, and you feel that grace filling you, even if it's just for a second. That grace is there, and that grace will never leave you, because you know why? You are that grace. You're not separate from that grace. You are not the darkness. The darkness will go. We are pure light. We are pure consciousness. We are part of God. How could we be dark? How could we be bad? How could we have faults? How could we? We can't. This is all a dream. It's all a delusion. All those negative thoughts, our health, our whatever it is that's holding us back. I and my Father are one. I am your child. Receive me. I love you. Guide me every moment of your life. After a deep meditation, take that time to say those affirmations. You can go to Master's Scientific Healing Affirmations. Look in those affirmations. They're powerful. Say it right then. When you're open and your mind is calm, say those affirmations again and again with power. And then go about your day and have that tape in your mind going around. Not why did they say that, and how come this is this way, and how come they did that, and how dare they, and all these thoughts. I don't like the food, I don't feel good, whatever it is. Put those to the side and have that strong affirmation. I and my Father are one. That's a beautiful affirmation, and it's true. That's why it's beautiful, because there's truth. There's truth that we are children of God. And as spiritual aspirants and devotees and disciples, what a blessing to come to that point in your spiritual evolution where you can realize that you do have a way out, that there is a path forward, that you can heal yourself, and from that point of healing, heal others. What a blessing. Think of what your life was like before you even had the thought, I want God. I want more light. I want more love. I want all of these things. Think of what your life was like before you even knew to think those thoughts. Some people don't even have the awareness to think those thoughts yet, because everybody is made in the image of Divine Mother. Everybody. I don't care who you say, how evil they are, what they're doing. Every soul is created in the image of Divine Mother. Everybody. And you look at the world today and you see the hatred and the wars, and you might read the news and you might get on one side and say, well, this is justified, or you might get on the other side and say, no, this is justified, or you might say the whole thing is justified, and you get in there and you hold up your sign and you say, all of that, when in reality, what each individual soul in these mass wars and negativity, each individual soul at one point will come to that point in their spiritual life where they'll want God. And they do want God now. There's no way out for them, but they will get it. So what do we do? What do we do? We remove ourselves from the negativity, we fill ourselves with light, and we pray for them. This is a powerful spiritual tool that will change the world. You pray for people that you're having a hard time with, and you send light and energy and love and compassion and forgiveness and God to these situations in the world. We have the power to be healers. We can heal. This is the age where the energy within us, we have learned how to control it through yoga, and we can send it out. with a powerful affirmation of love. And that will touch souls who are receptive. We can't say the war will end because one of us is doing a healing prayer. But all of us together, that light gets stronger and stronger and stronger. We should be praying every day, every time we think of it, for this world and those souls that are suffering. And we should also be praying for those people in our lives that we think are keeping us away from God because they're so bad and they make me feel so bad. We should pray for those souls, because what are you doing? Like it said in the affirmation, it said, don't just pray for them. You're opening your own heart and you're receiving love from God. When you forgive, there's nothing more healing than forgiveness. Nothing. I remember the beautiful story of Corrie ten Boom, who was in she lived in Amsterdam. She was a very saintly soul, and she wrote a book called The Hiding Place. And her father and her sister were killed in the concentration camp. Her whole family was hiding the Jews so that the Germans wouldn't find them, but they did find them, and they took them away, and her too. She was in this concentration camp. And it was brutal, it was dark, it was horrible. And her father was killed, and her sister, and her aunts, and her uncles, and some of the children in her family, they were all killed. And because of this one prison they were in, or this concentration camp, there was this one man in charge, and he was ordering and being cruel, and he was the worst one of them all. So after the war, she, again, the very courageous, saintly soul, was opening up her house to hide the German soldiers that people were going after in revenge. And so they were scared and they were hiding. And so she opened her house to these soldiers that could be safe from people getting them. And it was difficult for her. And one day she opened the door, there was a knock on the door, and there was that general. There was the very person who had annihilated her loved ones. And she was just like, oh my God, I can't do this. I just can't do this. And so he said, please forgive me. I know what I did. I want to change. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't have any money. My whole life is gone. And so she had all these thoughts while he was talking, like, yeah, look what you did to my family. And then she had this very strong thought. He said, will you forgive me? And she said, I can't. And then she closed her eyes and she prayed to Christ, who was her guru, and said, I can't forgive him, but you can. And with all of her heart and soul, you can forgive him. And she felt this power come into her, and arms went up. This very energy, this healing power came through her. She felt it going in through the medulla, she said, and felt her arms come up. And she hugged him and held him to her. And she said, I forgive you in the name of Christ. And he wept and she wept, and there was never a thing between them, never a thing. And then from that moment on, he helped her in her work, which lasted many years. And her mission was to talk about forgiveness. All over the world, she talked about forgiveness. She didn't talk about the horrors, she talked about the compassion. And so if she could do that, why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? We get so bound up in our minds, so bound up with what people do to us, and we don't deserve it, and all of that. We've got to learn to forgive. We've got to. Because when you do that, you are a channel for that healing power to come through you. You can say that, you can feel it, and then you'll feel God's presence. You'll feel exactly what you're sharing, and your heart will feel that even more so, 1,000 times. So during this time on this planet, let's just remember the power that each one of us has as a child of God to do good and to send out healing energy in this world. Healing energy. It's what we need. It's what we all want. We all want the same. We want to be forgiven for all of our transgressions, whatever they are. They're not so big. Let them go. Be kind to yourself, love yourself, and love others in the name of the great gurus that have come to give us the path, to give us the way, to give us the tools to be able to do this in this world. So God bless you all and have a wonderful week. And